Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, and welcome to this edition of Revealing Prophecy. Each week we connect the dots of the news from around the globe with biblical prophecy and talk about what was, what is, and what is to come. The monologue is our original work, and all other articles are used giving credit to their respective sources. Inclusion of a story is provided for your information only and is not an endorsement of either the views of the author or their theology. Visit ignitingnation.com for a full roster of live daily interviews and check out the Biblical Truth Library containing almost 1,000 hours of rich Bible teachings. Download our new apps and subscribe to the Igniting Nation YouTube channel where you'll find over 1,600 interviews from our daily live broadcast. Here's a quick look at what we'll be covering on today's show. I'll be opening up with a monologue followed by a story from Pastor Mike Taylor entitled, "We Are to be Salt and Light." Our next story will be from Michael Snyder, War Drums, Iran and Israel on Brink of Conflict. The next one from Terry James, Nearing Midnight, End Times Eye on Israel. A story from Bill Wilson, The Daily Jot, Speaking Boldly Amid Cancel Culture. And closing with the daily devotion from Pastor Greg Laurie entitled People of Purity. As we examine the Bible, we can truly classify it as a book of prophecy. It contains over 2,500 prophecies, of which over 2,000 have been fulfilled. Given that the Bible proves so reliable a document, there's every reason to expect that the remaining 500 prophecies, those slated for the time of the end, also will be fulfilled to the last letter. Who can afford to ignore these coming events, much less miss out on the immeasurable blessings offered to anyone and everyone who submits to the control of the Bible's author, God Himself? Would a reasonable person take lightly God's warning of judgment for those who reject what they know to be true about Jesus and the Bible, or who reject Jesus' claim on their lives? One cannot help but notice that we have slipped into a society where shaming has become the new motivational tool to effect change. The new norm is to brand one or more groups and drive microscopic focus onto a specific point and repeat the condemnation until there's a desired outcome. On principle, it seems uncharacteristically the behavior of those who subscribe to a biblical worldview. But as I look deeper into this, two biblical characters come to mind who have been branded, labeled, shamed, and have not been able to shake the negative narrative related to their lives. That might surprise some, as why would anyone want to overlook the good that was done and only focus on the negative aspects of their lives? In reality, none of us want the summation of our lives to focus on past transgressions and overlook the true defining moments of our life. Yet, as much as we would like to believe that we as a body are radically different in our approach, real introspection reveals a much different story. As Dr. Michael Brown has written many times, our hands are stained with blood. Look at how we present one of the greatest heroes in biblical history. Even to this day, not a church sign identifies this Bible character in a positive light. Her past haunts her to this day, so much so that her character prior to the laying her life on the line for the protection of Israel and her position of high honor in the lineage of Messiah still is how she is portrayed. Long before Corrie ten Boom put her life on the line to hide Jews from the Nazis and became portrayed as a righteous Gentile, there was one chronicled in the Bible whose act of courage and self-sacrifice secured Israel's future. Yet, for all she did, we still refer to her as Rahab the harlot. Why would we not honor this heroic woman who single-handedly hid the spies and went on to become the mother of Boaz, who married Ruth, and is listed in the lineage of Messiah? Is this not reflective of a continuing culture of shame that has now become a weapon being wielded on the streets of major cities all across the world, but especially here in America? Look at how we who are believers have treated the memory of Samson. I have heard sermons preached describing his final heroic act as suicide instead of the single greatest defeat of the Philistines that should be looked at in light of Jesus' own statement, "No greater gift than this than for one man to lay down his life for another." Who among us does not have a past? And how many times have we heard it preached that your past does not define you? But we who know the Scriptures continue to paint these two great characters of the Bible with labels of shame for the life they led, as opposed to the final contributions of their lives. In this regard, we can only be called double-minded. Yes, we as a nation and as a body of believers have a past. That past is littered with the atrocities of the tortuous hand of Rome against the Jews, not just in 70 AD and the centuries that followed, but an ongoing culture of anti-Semitism and replacement theology that are deeply rooted in so many denominations. What pride can we take from the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, or the Holocaust, where the church was not only silent in one part, but complicit at the very top levels of the Vatican? We are guilty of a convenient memory if we do not take an honest inventory of our role in creating a culture of shame. Now the shame is being turned back on us, and we don't like it. It wasn't right when we participated in it, and it's not right now. But rather than deny and forget our role in creating this culture of shame, we must become the ministers of reconciliation that every believer is charged with in these very words of Paul in 2 Corinthians 5, beginning in verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Messiah, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. All this is from God, who through Messiah reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Messiah, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Messiah, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Messiah, be reconciled to God. For our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. The message could not be made more clear as to what we are called to do in this season of great division and strife. We must meet persecution with love and understanding, for we were once the persecutors, and still, on so many levels, perpetuate a culture of shame. We must stop turning against each other and allowing the destructive words of Satan to fill our mouths. Yes, in the last days, brother will turn against brother, but we who have the Word of God have a choice as to whether or not we will take the bait of Satan and continue the racial and politically charged attacks on social media and in the press and on the streets. We have a choice to make in acknowledging that we who know Messiah can and will rise up and preach a message of reconciliation and walk in the blessings of being the peacemakers. We must heed the command of God to love one another and remove the bitterness and hatred from our hearts. If there is to be change, let it begin with us. Our enemy is not each other, and knowing that we should be united around the great love and sacrifice made for us by heaven itself, and stop the hate speak rooted in politics and shame. There is no such thing as a Democrat or Republican believer in Messiah. There is only one body, and when that body turns against itself, it is only doing the work of the enemy. This culture of shame is not edifying and does not reflect the heart of the Father. Are you willing to take up his mantle and set your own agenda aside and answer the call to heal those who hurt and take up your role as an ambassador of heaven? Shame is a tool of the enemy, and it's time for we who know Messiah to stop being used by Satan to advance his kingdom and be counted as kingdom builders and the righteousness of God. If the shed blood of Messiah is not enough to bring healing to the nations, then our future is indeed filled with darkness and hate. The end must come, as it is written, but which side will you be on when it does come? That is the decision you must make now.